All right, you're back. You made it here to the Gill Athletics Connections podcast. Just so pumped again. We're starting out in season 7, which is still just boggles my mind. You've heard me say it 100 times. Never would have thought when we started here in January of 2020 that I'd be staring at 2026 and still doing this thing. And it's amazing because there's amazing people out there that choose to be track and field coaches. Now, if you joined us last week, we had the men's head coach from the University of Rhode Island. We learned all about the Rams and things like that, and that was awesome to get his perspective. Well, we got to get both sides of all stories, right? Because we got so much to celebrate and to uplift and honor there at the University of Rhode Island. So now we're going to flip it over to the women's head coach. So help me welcome there from the University of Rhode Island, the wise, the wonderful, Miss Laurie Feit-Melnick. Laurie, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. This is fun. I think this might be, we talked about memory before I hit record here. This is number 340 something. We're getting real close to 350. So my memory is also a little slower when I try to think about guests and who we've done and how we've done it. But I think this is the first time that we've had, separate men and women's programs where we've had the head coach from each one kind of back to back. And that's interesting because there are different programs and how you think about things and how you go to strategize for your team. So I'm excited to kind of flip it over here to the women's side and see get your take on things that are going there at the University of Rhode Island.
Yeah, because many programs in the country are combined programs, and
Yeah.
here at University of Rhode Island, I'm actually like the second head women's coach. Lauren Anderson was the first coach from 1977 to 1992,
Oh wow.
and I've been here since 1992, which is kind of crazy. It's a lot of years,
Oh
and
yeah.
yeah, been here quite a while, and like we still have separate programs, and Trent's doing an amazing job on the men's side, and and then I'm the head on the women's side.
Yeah, that's interesting. We'll have two when we get to the Rhode Island part of your journey. Two cool topics to talk about. One is because I know you have a lot of peers that have combined programs. I'm thinking off the top of my head, real close to you, UConn with one of my favorite people, Beth Albert Sullivan. Overseeing a men's and women's program, and of course, there's a lot of others. So it'd be interesting to get your take on split versus combined, and then also. I remember this from a few years ago. We were at the USTF convention, and a bunch of us were gathered around. We were talking about coaches who had been at their program for a significant amount of time. The conversation was about this whole, everybody's leaving and chasing whatever they're chasing, things like that. And we had a couple of names, Mouse Holloway and Amy Deem and things like that of like people who've been there. But we got to 10 pretty quick. But after 10, we started struggling. Then people would be like, oh, yeah, what about Laurie up at Rhode Island? It was a little bit harder to get to people that had gotten there for a long time. So that'll be interesting as well, just to kind of pick your brain on, consistency and what that means and why and what are the advantages of having a coach that's been there for that long. I think there are a lot of advantages actually to that. I think consistency is key. So I think there's going to be a lot to talk about when we get to that stage. So I'm excited about that. That's cool. Love that. Okay, well, Laurie, my first question for every guest, every single guest we've ever had on here is assuming that you were an athlete. And we know what assuming does. And we have certainly had some amazing, amazing coaches who were not athletes. Assuming that you were an athlete, where does track and field begin for you?
Well, I wasn't I was an athlete, and I'm running a lot slower nowadays, but so I I I ran for Rutgers, and I did cross country, indoor and outdoor track and field.
Mhm.
I grew up in Long Island, went to Farmingdale High School, and but one thing that is kind of crazy when you think about this, because it's a long time ago, but in in the 80s, which I was, like say 80, it would have been 81 and 82, we didn't have a girls cross country team at
Right.
Farmingdale High School. So I remember going to, the high school coach who was the boys coach, and it was just like, no, and anyway, so my dad and I, we had to kind of do some things and fight and talk to the principal. And then, so I have to say, I'm proud to say that I started the girls cross country team at Farmingdale High School. And it's a big high school. It's not a small high school.
Dude.
But then following that, I it was a year where I'm sure you've heard this name, but Frank Gagliano was the head coach at Rutgers.
Oh, he was
And
at Rutgers. I didn't know he was at Rutgers.
yes, he was at Rutgers in 1983, and he
Wow.
recruited my, like my group of friends and my team, and And then that's the year he left to Georgetown.
Okay.
So in
Oh, so you're this
October,
close.
yeah, so in October, he left to Georgetown,
Yeah.
and he's amazing. Oh my gosh, he's
Yes.
just such an amazing person. Um and then, but yes, I ran at Rutgers, and I have Roberta Anthis, who is my dear friend today. And
Okay.
Roberta Anthis is not at Rutgers now. She's been out of Rutgers maybe, my guess is 15 to 20 years, in that range. And she lives in California. But Roberta was a huge role model in my life.
Okay.
And what's crazy, and I know I'm probably like going around talking about a lot
All
of
good.
different things,
You're
but
good.
Roberta what started the Villanova track and field program.
Really? Okay, pause there because you're right. There is a lot to unpack here. So I've had a few of our women's coaches try to be politically correct here, of a certain age who were in this time frame that you're talking about here in the 80s and before, where there was no official women's sports. Right. So we had Karen Dennis, now retired head coach of Ohio State, talking about how it's very similar. Had to run with the boys, had to fight for a women's team. We had Sue Humphreys.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me. And I know, our average listener, if I remember the stats right, is roughly 30 to 45. Now I'm about to turn 50 this year, but it boggles me. And I wonder if our young people, like, you can even fathom this. It boggles me that not too long ago, you're talking about the 80s. I was a boy. I was going to school during the 80s, and there were lots of places in our country that did not allow, I should say, women's, girls, cross country, track, other sports, etc. That is just like, that's crazy to me. Like, today in 2025, 2026, it's like, of course we have women's and girls cross country and track and things like that. How did you, like, what was I'm curious, like, your mindset, because many people were in the same time frame you are and maybe wanted to run track or cross country, many girls, but didn't have the, maybe gumption is the right word, to fight for it. What was your mindset of, like, hey, this isn't right, this status quo shouldn't be right, so hey, me and dad, we're gonna fight for this? What was the, like, I mean, that takes some chutzpah.
Yeah, definitely chutzpah. I, it's funny because I came from a family where no one was athletic. I mean, my dad was a college professor, my mom was a college professor, my sister was more into equestrian. She's like 5.5 years older than me. So, but I think it was about, what's fair and equitable. And I was a runner. I like to run, like I said, in a family that no one really knew anything about athletics, at all. But, but it was, I wanted to have an opportunity to be able to run cross country. And there were plenty of other high schools in the area, like good high school teams that had like really good, cross country.
Right.
So boys, like I said, had been going on for a long time. And then, and I don't remember everything, but I just remember, my dad was like, yeah, let's fight this. He was for it. And and then we went to the principal and we did what we needed to do, or whether it was the AD,
Right.
and then, yeah, but it was kind of crazy. It was like, okay, well, if you want to do this, Laurie, you need to find 4 other people, so you have 5 people to run a
Right.
meet or a race. So then I'm asking my best friend Elise. I'm like, Elise, will you please run? And she's just like, I don't want to compete, but I made her, so.
Ah, friendship. Yeah. When
We didn't have uniforms, it was kind of
yeah.
comical.
Do you remember how much pushback did the current coach give the AD, that, like when that principal or AD said, "All right, Laurie, that's cool, but you got to go find 4." Do you think that was more of like, was it more of just like logistics of like, well, you need a team, so Laurie, that's cool, go get some friends, or was it more of like, yeah, good luck, go and find 4 more girls? Like, was there support or kind of or pushback from the decision makers?
I think the principal and the AD might have been supportive. I think the present boys coach, I don't know. I can't remember if he was so
Sure,
supportive. I mean, it is
sure,
a long time ago.
yeah,
But I mean, obviously, like I could have been, you'd think I could be an individual and just run individually if I didn't have,
right.
you know, uh, 4 other people.
Hmm.
Um, but I guess that's what they said to me. And I don't know if it was like a
Yeah,
negative thing. It's just like, okay, go find some other people.
yeah.
But
It doesn't seem like that would be the kind of thing that would slow you down either. Be like, cool, that's what I got to do. All right, I guess I will do it.
Try to do it.
Yeah.
Right?
So how was that experience when you finally got a team together and you're officially a Farmingdale girls cross country team? Like that's historic, honestly.
Yeah, and I don't, I can't remember how many meets we went to, and probably when we got to the bigger meets, I mean, I'm not trying to like, it might have been only me at the bigger meets. I can't remember, but I do have one picture where it's like, I think we're all wearing like different color uniforms. Like we really didn't look like we gelled together.
Sure.
So I don't know how much support we had, from,
Yeah.
did we actually wear like, you know, singlets
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
I'm only guessing you
But it
got
was
like
a start, and
yeah, I'm only guessing you got like hand-me-down boys uniform. That's just my
probably,
guess. Like,
yeah,
first of all, women's clothing has just maybe now started getting into some equality territory. So in the 80s, good Lord, I can't even imagine they even maybe made singlets for girls specifically. So yeah, you were
right.
getting last year's and oh, I found this one in the closet. That fits you. Sure, go ahead.
Maybe we were wearing the guy stuff. Who knows, right? I don't
Yeah.
know. But
Now, when you took on this battle, and again, bravo, honestly, Laurie, there's a lot of heroes in this world, and some huge when we think about like a Rosa Parks and stuff like that.
oh
But
yeah.
honestly, this battle of equality, both on minorities and women, happens daily in Long Island and Columbus, Georgia, and Trent, New Mexico. It happens on the ground by ordinary folks like you, and so it's cool. I love that you had a lot of support from your family as well, and that you, like I said, just had the gumption to get her done. Man, I love that. That changed the course of Farmingdale and even in that region. So that's really cool. Did you have an eye or bend or even a thought at this point, like your freshman, sophomore, senior, or junior, senior, kind of in that area of running in college? Like, was that an idea, or was it just like I like to run, so I just want to run?
Well, I remember definitely the end of my junior year in the state of New York, they had something called the Empire State Games. It
Hmm.
was like a big kind of summer competition up at Syracuse. So I remember going there, and then I made some like, I think I ran the 800, and the 800 was still really relatively a new race for me. It was really my senior year where, I mean, New York's a big state, obviously. We have a very competitive state meet in the state of New York. So I remember indoors, it was probably in March. It was at Cornell, and I was sixth in the 1,000 meter at the New York State meet. And that was, to me, it was a big thing. And I mean, of course, the girl that won it, I'll never forget, she ran really fast. But I ran, whatever, I ran like 301, and we didn't have fast shoes. I don't even
Right.
know if I had spikes, and Cornell was not like a bank facility. So,
Right. Right.
but I think definitely after that, maybe I got some attention, and because I was either going to go to a SUNY school, Albany, Binghamton,
Right.
Buffalo, and then Rutgers came into play, and it was still like the phone calls back then.
Yeah.
And it was just a lot different.
Yeah.
Actually, one thing that was so different when you were being recruited back then, I don't think there were, although then again, I don't know if there are any rules now, but back then,
Yeah. We went from no rules to a lot of rules to
yeah,
do we
to
have
like it,
rules? Yeah. Yeah.
but I distinctly remember, Mike, I went on my visit, stayed over, and Gags was there. And Gags is like, I text him to this day now. He's in his 80s. He's amazing. He is like one of my favorite people in the world. And I remember going on the overnight visit and going to practice, and I did a workout. So,
Yeah.
so once again, I'm like, here, you're visiting, and it's just like, oh, they're doing quarters. Well, why
Hop
don't you
in.
join? And I remember doing that.
Yeah,
So,
that's interesting. I
but
love that.
then and it was a very, very competitive team.
Hmm.
I mean, I did not earn a scholarship at Rutgers until my junior year.
Wow. Yeah.
So we're
What
talking a lot different than
what
kind of where we're in this era.
Yeah. Okay. Real quick before we hop into college, go back to
Sorry.
high school. No, it's all good. That's my job is to keep it all like you're all good. You're doing great. Uh, in high school, so you get the girls team started. I'm assuming the boys coach coached you.
I believe he did, yeah.
How did that, as you went through your career, your junior senior year, okay relationship? Like did you feel like, oh, okay, we're part of a team, or was there like a, keep an arm's length from the girls? Here's these upstart girls trying to start something, so I'll coach them, but they're going to be over there on the sidelines. Or did you feel part of the team? And did the other boys accept you as well, the athletes?
That's it. I think once I got the approval to do it, I think I don't remember there being tension.
Good.
Um, like it's a long time ago, but
Yeah.
I don't believe, I think
Good.
that we got some coaching
Yeah.
and there were, a few different coaches, but I feel like it was the one that kind of covered both of us
Good.
um and and I can't remember exactly like how the boys were,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
were,
Yeah.
but they
Well, it's
probably,
it's
yeah.
boys that now have girls at practice, so something tells me most of them were pretty cool with it. So yeah, yeah,
Right.
okay. Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay. As you go senior year, you ran at Cornell, ran fast, started getting some attention from colleges. As you start looking at colleges, now you mentioned both parents were professors, so I always have a lot of assumptions, but okay, so you're coming from like an education, like education is important in the family, things like that, right? Uh, you mentioned a little bit how the process and was going, and you ended up choosing Rutgers. What were you thinking as an 18-ish year old? What were you thinking about becoming, like a business owner, you always do the stereotypical, a doctor, a lawyer, those kind of things. What were you thinking about at that point, and was coaching at all in your mind as an 18-ish year old?
No, no way. Coaching was not in my mind.
Right.
I went to Rutgers and I wanted to be a physical therapist.
Oh,
So I, had like the exercise science tract um and that really was my goal, my freshman year. That's, what the plan was. And so my mom passed away my freshman year.
oh
Um
no.
so my mom
Of
had,
college?
yeah, so
Oh,
so kind of life changed a lot,
yeah.
when you lose a parent. So it my grades suffered. I just I decided, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to stay this PT route. I'm going to go more. So I ended up going K through 12 health and PE biology minor, certification to
Hmm.
teach K through 12 health and PE.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, like, it was really my collegiate coach, like Roberta Anthus, is a
Hmm.
huge part of my life to help me
Sure.
through those. I spent 4.5 years. I spent an extra year,
Yeah.
half a year with cross country at Rutgers, but
Yeah.
she was an integral part to just help me through a real rough time in my life. Yeah.
What a great person to be in your life, because you made the point about losing a parent. Full stop. That's tough. Losing a parent in a year, a transitional year, like a freshman year of college. There's already enough coming at you and changes and thought process of what's the future going to look like. Am I supposed to have it all together now and all these kind of things? And then you have that happen. If you'd have told me you dropped out and then eventually went back, I would not have been surprised. So just for you to stick to it is a lot of strength in that
I,
alone.
I think I did think about dropping out. I mean, my mom passed away in November of
Hmm.
1983. And that was, when I was a freshman, and my dad was home in Long Island. And I think I did think about that, should I go home? I don't want my dad to be alone. My sister's out of the house. She's, five
Right.
and a half years older than me.
Right.
But I'm sure my dad was like, no, you need to stay in school,
Yeah.
that type of thing.
Yeah, I
And,
can see that.
but yeah, no, definitely, had a lot of people at Rutgers like helping me. And I remember, it's, and to be honest with you, Mike, to this day, I have, and I will start getting upset. I mean, I've got women on my team that have lost parents at a young age, and
Yeah.
I'm very close to them because I can identify that you don't
Amen.
want anyone to have to go through this.
That's right.
But um, we have a lot of, there's a lot of that,
Yeah.
and it's hard. It's hard when you lose a parent at a young age, or a sibling, or whatever it might be,
Right.
so.
Yeah. I hate that you had to go through the experience. Unfortunately, we all go through that eventually. But I love that much how you describe how Roberta was there for you. There's a lot of young ladies out there right now that go, man, if it weren't for Laurie. Thank goodness she was in my life. So I love that, you're able to take a very grieving event and make it a very much of a positive with the young ladies that you oversee for the past, couple decades there. I love that. That's awesome. Uh, Awkward transition. What was the status of,
Yeah.
so you told us, you were in a time period where you had to create the cross country team in the high school. Tell us a little bit, in the mid 80s here, what is the status of college track and field for women? Is there, because I don't remember, my history is not that great. Somewhere we went from the AIU to the NCAA. So I don't remember where that was. Was there a lot of teams? Like, did you see the same girls over and over because there was only 5 teams in the region? Tell us about what the status was for women in college track and field at that point.
Trying to think. So in the 80s, and I stepped onto a team, like it was a good program at
Hmm.
Rutgers, at the time, meaning like some good times. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to really get my times down
Right,
to make a 4x800 relay, that type
right.
of thing. So and obviously, Gags had established that, Frank Gagliano. And so then Roberta pretty much stepped in because she got her PhD in English at, I know it's like it was
Dude.
crazy. It's like she was like an assistant, but then she eventually became, head women's coach, and Mike Mulqueen was the head men's coach.
Yeah, that's right.
Um, so but I remember, I remember we had opportunities. I don't think that we didn't, in the sense of we went to our ECAC meets, we went to, I'm trying to think, like, it wasn't AIAIW, because that was before the 80s,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So,
I couldn't remember if that was 70s or
yeah,
even encroached into the 80s. Yeah. Okay. Hmm.
but you're right. I mean, the first NCAA cross country meet, what we have to check that date,
Yeah. Yeah.
because that
It,
I
it's it's
might,
sad that we don't know automatically. It's again, it's
yeah,
just how late things came. It's just,
right.
it wasn't. I told this many times. Again, I think it's just worth bearing to some of our younger listeners. It's the year's 2026 when you're listening to this. In 2020, so that's only 26 years ago,
Mhm.
was the first time we had the pole vault and I think the hammer, if I remember correctly, in the Olympics. And
Mhm.
then in 2004, I think was the first year we had the hammer, or, the steeplechase
Right,
for the women. And it's like that again, that was yesterday, guys, that
right.
we did not allow women to run the steeplechase for the that's just crazy to me. So even to think that we had to struggle for women's sports in the original sport in track and field and cross country in the 80s is just
Well, yeah, like
mind-boggling.
Joni Benoit, 1984, first Olympic marathon,
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
on US soil. And then I remember when we were at the 1992 Olympic trials in New Orleans,
Hmm.
the 5,000 for women was exhibition. The
Exhibition.
javelin, oh my gosh, was like there were, and maybe it was the hammer, or there were many exhibition. They were not in the Olympics yet.
Wow. That's amazing to me.
Yeah. So
We should be talking about, oh, in the 1880s, that's what occurred, not the 1980s for crying out loud.
I know.
It's ridiculous. Okay, you're going through Rutgers. You're obviously improving because you talked about you walked on, and then by junior year, you earned a scholarship, and it sounds like it was a program that earning a scholarship wasn't easy for crying out loud. As you move through your college career and you change to like a PE, so you start thinking about like, okay, I'm gonna become a high school PE teacher.
Yeah, I started to think that route, and then coach maybe at the high school level, think like
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. When you started, I love this. Uh, One of my favorite questions is that question of like, when you're 18, what'd you think about becoming? Because very few of us were like, oh yeah, I was going to be a coach. Some of us certainly were that, but most of us not at all. Coaching grows into us. Most of us don't even think about in the 18 to 22 age range that coaching can even be a profession, even though it's right in front of you. Like there's someone who's coaching you. You don't even think like, oh, I could do that. Like that's an actual job. That person gets paid. As you move to PE and start thinking about teaching high school, and then you start thinking like, oh, okay, I could coach if I'm teaching PE in the high school level. Do you remember thinking about how Coach Roberta like handled workouts? Like you're young, so you all grace here that most athletes are coach says to run this. I go run. Others, we've learned that now, knowing that they're going to become track coaches, they think about the workouts a little different. They're more curious. Hey, coach, why this workout and then followed up by this one, and why didn't we do two of these? Or you kind of start like wondering because you're kind of piecing together like, oh, I'm actually going to do this one day, so I want to know why. Do you remember how your attitude towards coaching was at this point?
Well, maybe when I was a little older, maybe my junior and senior year,
Hmm.
I don't know if I was one of those people that would ask Roberta some questions. I did have my, handwritten logbook.
Yeah, I was going to
I don't
ask. Yeah.
I don't have them anymore. No, some people still use
Yeah,
them,
yeah.
which I think are awesome.
Hmm.
And I saved mine. And I'd write down like the workouts and I write down felt good or felt horrible, that type of thing.
Love that.
So I probably did, I would say maybe when I was a bit older, ask her more
Hmm.
questions. And she was always in amazing shape because she made several Olympic trials in the marathon, I believe it was. So
Wow,
she would like do her run and then she'd come to practice, all like
that's
she got a
crazy.
run in and like I said, she was a huge role model and what she did to fight to, get women running like I said, started the Villanova program.
Hmm.
But so I don't know if like probably more toward, maybe like when I was older and
Hmm.
then maybe even after I did my student teaching, then I was
Hmm.
like, okay, if I am gonna become
Right.
K through 12 health teacher, am I gonna coach too, that type of
Right.
thing. So
How did you know you mentioned, and I think it bears repeating, Roberta started the Villanova program. How did you know that? And what I mean by that is she didn't recruit you like that would be kind of maybe a thing that someone would tell a recruit, well, hey, I started the Villanova program, to try to recruit a kid. You show up at Rutgers, Gags leaves, and then Roberta comes in. Like, was that a did that just come up in conversation? Like that's just a like I don't feel like a Roberta on the
yeah,
first day of practice said, "Hey guys, just so you know, I start." I
yeah.
feel like she'd be a very humble person that you almost had to like coax it out of her that she did something so monumental.
No, I'm sure I probably learned that. What I can't remember is did I know that when I was a collegiate athlete or did I know it after?
Right.
Because
That's I wondered.
I
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
that I'm not sure if I can
Hmm.
clearly remember. Like Roberta and I are very close whenever I go to California, I always visit her. So she's
Right.
my closest friends. But I remember she told us a story and she was definitely one that would tell us some really good stories, to the team. And because she would have to sneak on the track when the band was playing at Villanova and to not be seen, but then she was also escorted off sometimes. So she went through a lot and I know she's, they know her story obviously at Villanova and everything. So um but I don't know if I can remember exactly when I found that out, but she probably did, did she tell us when we were collegiate athletes or
Yeah.
after? I'll have to ask her if she remembers.
It feels like a on the bus ride type of
Yeah,
conversation, or and I wonder too if it was because you're such close friends, if it came after, like, hey,
after,
in
right.
a conversation about how should I coach this or I'm dealing with this, it comes up through that conversation. I love the relationship that not only that you had, but how it's continued to grow into a lifelong best friend. I think you said that. That's again, sometimes as coaches, we forget our influence over young people and we think it is about the X's and O's and what workout did I give my sprinters, what did we do in the weight room, and that's certainly a part of coaching, but there's this whole much bigger ecosystem of leadership, of compassion. I think about when you lost your mom, Roberta had to show a lot of compassion for you and the team and what you were going through, and lower expectations for the workout, at least for a day. So I just think, those are great stories for coaches to make sure they're hearing that the legacy you live is with those young people that are in front of you. And it's a whole basket of goods. It's not just a workout, guys. It's really not. So I love hearing that. Okay, you graduate, you do your student teaching. Do you go immediately into you get a teaching spot and a coaching job, or what's the next stop?
So I ended up spending the extra, like, 4.5 years, like the extra semester. I had
Mhm.
cross country eligibility.
Right.
So that would have been the fall of 87. And then I, finished up like well, I probably walked in like the spring, but it was technically, I finished up in December.
Right.
Then what I also can, okay, and then there was a permanent sub position at one of the schools that I think I did my student teaching. It was probably the Bridgewater Raritan district. And so then I got a permanent sub job for like that, the rest, like say, from probably
Right.
January through the rest of the year.
Yep. Yep.
But I
Hmm.
wasn't coaching. I was probably trying to run and like do that, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Because I was technically graduated, right?
Yeah. When you say
Then in
still run, my distance runners I always have to ask because distance running is something we can do for life regardless
yeah,
of what our actual marks are, right? When you
right.
say you were still junior running, were you at a level where like were you running like I'm trying to qualify for like a Team USA, or are you running because I'm a runner and that's what I do? I'm going to do 5Ks and maybe do a marathon crazily one day. What's your kind of attitude of towards running?
I think like when I was that, like after like post collegiate, right then I was probably still training with Roberta, but just probably doing road races. I
Hmm.
wasn't like, I kind of got more into my own collegiate running actually when I got here to Rhode Island
Hmm.
when I was a new young coach
Okay.
here. But that's another story. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Got it. Got it.
But
Yeah.
because I ran with like a couple of Boston based clubs. So
Okay. Yeah.
but but
It's
not at the
always
Olympic trials level.
it's always an awkward question to me because I've never asked unless I knew they were like Dwayne Ross, now the head coach of
Yeah.
Tennessee. Like I asked his PR because I knew he was a Team USA guy. I really don't know and ask about PRs because I don't care. Meaning, Laurie, if you ran 15 flat for the 5K or 25 flat for the 5K, that doesn't change who you are. Just some of it's just God-given ability or lack thereof, by the way. So I don't really care about PRs, but I always do wonder with our distance runners when they get done with college, like, oh, so are you running because it's cool and you like it? It's your lifestyle now, or like, are you actually training for some amazing stuff because you've been around some of those people? So okay, so you get a long-term sub. I know a lot about this now because my wife now is a substitute teacher who does a lot of actually starts in February at another long-term sub. So I've gotten more into the world of like, not a full-time teacher, but you're in there. You're not once a week. You're in there every single day. So understand that, love that. Feels like that would be a good. You did student teaching, so that feels like a good transition into teaching, and then doing a long-term sub feels like another good transition before a full-time teaching job. So that had to
Yeah.
be kind of enlightening because it's different from student teaching, being a
Right.
long-term sub. Yeah, yeah. You said you weren't coaching though during that long-term sub. Were you, and you were still doing some of your running with Roberta and things like that. But are you like when track practice is happening, are you like looking over like, oh, wonder what they're doing today, or just oblivious at all to what's going on over there at this point?
Well, I mean, obviously, if I was like teaching, then it was probably, like you're there like a long day. So, but I probably did some stuff maybe on the weekends. Like I probably did some, because I was still kind of training under Roberta
Yeah.
that extra, like 6 months or whatever. And so I probably was doing some track workouts and doing road races and that type of thing.
Right.
Um, just just kind of working like a full-time job. It was definitely elementary that now that I can remember, it was elementary,
Oh yeah.
PE and health.
Yeah.
And then when that ended, then that next fall, I did kind of help Roberta with fall program and I coached, I could say that fall at Rutgers, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Okay. How was that? Because being an athlete is one thing. Even small coaching is different than being an athlete. What was that kind of taste of coaching? Your first, this is kind of first time coaching now.
Yeah, yeah. That was the first time and it wasn't for that long, Mike, because then I got a full-time teaching position in October. So I
Oh,
probably only did it September and part of October. I don't know if
right,
I could keep it up like when I got like a full-time
right.
teaching job. But it was weird. It wasn't a position that started in September. It was like I guess someone must have left and they
Mm,
started and that was high school and that was that and then I think I coached my probably outdoor or indoor of that year that
okay.
so that was basically October until the end of that year I was at a high school teaching and PE and health.
How long did you coach high school before we moved to college?
So just that year, so I had like this the half a year at the elementary,
Yeah,
then I did like what 10 months or October to
yeah.
the end of the year. Then in that June or that summer, I found out, and I can't remember exactly, but there was a position open at Miami of Ohio to actually in the beginning it was going to be a graduate assistant at Miami of Ohio,
Right.
where I was like, oh, this sounds very interesting, and I could learn a lot about coaching and then become and get my master's.
Hmm.
But what it ended up happening is it became the first full-time assistant position at Miami of Ohio under Richard Ceronie. So
No way. You
yeah,
were with Dr. Ceronie. Is
Dr.
that right?
Ceronie.
I love that young man. I know he's going
So
to be listening. So when I coached, so I coached for 10 years before I came to Gill, and one of my stops was at Ball State University. And so I got
oh,
to coach against Rich Cerrone at Miami of Ohio. So good friends with him. I love him. That's so cool. What a small world.
oh,
That's
that is a small world.
awesome. So when you went there, like, did you get there like on, September 1, first day, whatever you get there, you were the GA and it turned into a full-time assistant, or did it like during that summer, like, hey, actually, we need a full-time assistant here?
Let's see. Well, yeah, it was 1989. No, before I got there, I knew it wasn't going to be a GA. It was
Right.
full time, like
Yeah.
assistant, and could still get my master's too, because if you're a
Yeah.
full time
Okay.
assistant, then it's covered. You know what I mean?
Yeah. How was now? This is always interesting to me. So all your life so far that I'm hearing is living up here in this Long Island, Rutgers, this Northeast corridor, if you will. Uh, Miami, Ohio is a little different.
Yeah,
Is it Oxford, Ohio? What?
Oxford, Ohio. Yep.
Oxford. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful campus, by the way. I mean, that's
Beautiful.
a
Yeah.
little bit of a hidden gem for those people who don't know about Miami University. But it's a little different. You didn't go radical and go Miami or anything, but that's different than the hustle and bustle up there in the Northeast. How was that for you?
Cornfields. I had to.
Welcome to the Midwest.
I mean, no ocean. I grew up in Long Island.
Yeah.
So it's like, so it
Not.
was it was definitely different. And I mean, and I was not working distance. I was to work like sprints, jumps.
Oh,
Yeah. So Rich had, Rich, no, I was not going to be, so I had
wow.
to learn a lot.
How did that go? I love this. You see, your story is awesome. That's so cool. Because we easily pigeonhole people and go, "Oh, Lori's a distance runner, so she's a distance coach. That's all she's ever done," and yada yada. You show up because I again, my assumption was, oh, you were with Rich. I knew he's a distance guy. Oh,
Yeah.
you're learning from him, or he's giving you the short distance guy. The mile, and he's taking the fives and tens or whatever.
Yeah.
You show up and you got to jump. You got to coach sprints and hurdles and jumps too, or sprints and hurdles.
Pretty much. I don't think I did hurdles. I think it was definitely sprints and jumps, because I'm actually still the jumps coach here, but
Oh,
I'll
okay.
tell you that later.
So
So
what do you do, Little Miss Distance? That's been your life. You're a distance runner, and you show up and it's like make that 100-meter runner faster. How do you do that?
well, for the technical stuff, you're looking at a lot of videos, because you did have
Okay.
videos back then.
Okay.
And then and obviously, you're trying to get as many books as you can and just
Hmm.
learn. And then going to, still back then, we're talking 89, he was very good. He sent me to coaching education. So it's like level
Nice.
1, level 2,
Nice.
and then so he was very supportive about that.
Good.
So
Yeah, that I love
so
coaching
it, yeah.
education, so I was going to ask where that fit in. Okay, good, good, good. How was it? So it's one thing to be educated and go to these great clinics and level ones and level twos. Love that. Again, coaching education is extremely important to me and was to my career. But there's also like, yeah, that's cool to work with these quarter milers and all this kind of stuff, but I really love the milers. Hey, Rich, what you guys doing today in the 5K group? How was it? I don't know if I want to call it emotionally, but like maybe interest. Like, did it interest you? Like, were you able to kind of stay plugged in on that group and because you're responsible for that group? Or was it like, yeah, I'm doing this, but man, if Rich told me today I could move over to distance, I'd do it in a heartbeat.
Um, well, I'm sure I always asked him about what workouts he was giving, because he was a very, very good coach.
Yes.
And I still have, like, I save everything. So I saved a lot. So I I think, it was just a point where, I was learning a lot of new things, and and then what I can't remember is like, because Rich took a year where he got his PhD. So then I was like acting interim head.
Oh,
So that's when did I step in and do a little bit more like on the distance
sure.
side. But that's some of the stuff that I, is it's so long ago.
Yeah.
I could text him and I can ask him. But
He's so good. I love that.
um
Would
but
you get, what'd you get your master's in?
so the masters did end up in exercise science. And
Okay.
we had a good lab there, and I mean he
Yeah.
took a mixture of classes, but we did a lot of the VO2 max, like a lot of good stuff. So
Yeah.
it was a master's in exercise science. And
Yeah.
so and when I got there, because actually you just mentioned something to me before, you said you were at Ball State. So when
Yeah.
I got to Miami of Ohio, my husband John, who works with me here for
Mm.
since a long time here at URI, so John had left Ball State
Oh.
because there was a new head coach and they brought in their own, assistant.
Mm.
So John had gotten his master's and worked under Rich the 3 years like previously. And then he came back to just to coach, because Rich said, well, come back, come in and coach with us.
Yeah.
So that's his Ball State connection. And then he
That's
came
so
back,
cool.
and obviously, in '89, that's when I met John, and when I got the job here, we both moved out here.
Yeah.
And
Okay. I was gonna say you guys met at Miami, Ohio.
yes, we
Yeah.
met
Yeah.
at Miami,
God.
Ohio.
Oh, that's so cool,
Thank
man.
Rich for that, I guess, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Or or thank that other coach going to Ball State. Honestly,
Yeah,
I love that because it's interesting to me because we have perspective now as we move through our years. At the time, though, we have these forks in the road that happen that sometimes we think are either the most devastating thing in the world, or we think they're very small decisions. Doesn't matter if I go left or right. Here is a point where did you say his name's John?
John. Yeah,
John.
yeah,
John doesn't get rehired because there's a new head coach and all that stuff. And I could easily see John at that moment going, "What? This is the worst thing in the world. What do you mean? It's not because I did anything wrong, and
right,
I don't get like that's crazy. This is the worst thing in the world." And yet it led to his wife, and it's like it was a good thing, When you look back at it, it's like, "Oh, thank God I didn't get the job, or I wouldn't have met Laurie." Right? So
right.
that's a great story. I love that. That's so cool. I love that. That's really cool. Okay, so you're at Miami of Ohio. When you got your master's in exercise science, it's interesting to me. One of the things that I can remember over 300 plus interviews here on the podcast is a lot of our like I think there's some amazing coaches out there, like really like man, top boy, you're so smart and all the things you do. And then there's I've always said this, there's always about five coaches that are just a little bit above a Bush Snyder, right? Maybe a Cliff
Right.
Revelte. Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, no one ever argues with me about these people, by the way, because it's like, oh yeah, of course. What are you gonna say against a Boo and a Cliff? And one of those individuals is a Brooks Johnson, who before he passed, so humbled. He was I call him an OG. I think he was episode 31 or something on the podcast. And if you haven't had an opportunity to go listen to that
Oh,
listener, please go listen. It's an amazing story. His journey is amazing, and then his thought process on coaching really like changed me a little bit. So he talked about that, you're not a distance coach, you're not a sprints coach, you're not a throws coach, you're a track and field coach, that all events are the same. I'm doing air quotes there a little bit, but it's all about moving the mass. And whether you do it over 3.1 miles, or you do it in a 8-foot circle, or you do it down a 100-meter straightaway, the goal is still the same, to move the mass. So as you're taking exercise science, are you able to, you've got a very ingrained distance mind, like a lot about what kind of repeats and things to do for 5K kids, and the difference between training for the 5K and in the 15 and things like that. Are you starting, as you start to go down these kind of more high level exercise science classes, are you starting to see like, oh, in the 100, okay, yes, sure, we're not working on this system, but we're still moving this way, so I just needed to more concentrate on this type of train. Like, you're able, because I couldn't until I'm out of coaching. I finally was like, oh, okay, I can start seeing this stuff. Were you able to start seeing like, oh, maybe a better way to ask this question, Lori, if you did see it, did it start giving you more confidence of like, okay, sure, I may enjoy the distance more because that was my background, but I can see how I can coach the 100. It's just doing this more. Or the long jump is doing this. But there's a lot of commonalities.
um, let's see. I'm not sure I have an answer for that
Hmm.
because
It's fair.
it was a really good program in exercise science, but it also had so many different, you had a sports psych class, you had really
Oh yeah.
a mixture of master's classes.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I definitely remember being in the lab doing the VO2 max testing and the leads,
Hmm.
and so clearly I'm sure I learned a lot to
Hmm.
understand,
Hmm.
like, if someone has a higher VO2 max, how is that helping them as a distance runner? So
Right, right.
um I'm not sure, from a biomechanical standpoint, did it help me to become, to understand more about
Yeah,
the
that's
jumps?
fair.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
that's fair. That's fair. I
But
love it.
it was a good
Uh,
program.
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's my Ohio again. Kind of a. I think more
Cradle of
people know
coaches.
about the cradle of coaches. That's right. They say that about football coaches, but
Yes.
when you look at the track coaches that have come through there
Yeah.
as well, it is literally the cradle of coaches, even for our sport. It's quite amazing, actually. Okay, Rich goes and gets his PhD because he's crazy like that. You didn't go get your PhD, did you? You're going to tell me
No.
that? Okay, I was going to say you're crazy too. Yeah. There's two things that are just like automatically I label you a crazy person. You go and get a PhD. Like, what's wrong with you? That's too much class. That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's all jealousy, Lori. It's just like because I could never do it. So it's like, good Lord, it's amazing. You're crazy. And anybody who runs a marathon, I'm always like, you're crazy. What's wrong with you? Okay, Miami of Ohio, great school. Rich goes and gets his PhD. You get a taste of head coaching. Like, okay, these are things that Rich were doing that now I've got to do. How long do we stay there, and where do we go next?
So then in 1992, so that's like, finishing up the third year, and then I'm finishing up my master's project was a little bit different than the exercise science end of it, but I focused my master's project on eating disorders and a guide for coaching.
Hmm.
And I worked with an amazing professor there, and she was just like, no, let's, so she was supportive, and it was kind of like not everyone was talking about.
I was going to ask. I was like, were we talking
Yeah.
about that back? We kind of don't talk about it today. So maybe even more
Yeah.
taboo back then, a little bit.
Yeah, I would say, because there was, you now it's, everything is REDS and, relative deficiency disorder and all that, but but I felt it was really strong that, and I did, I got it published in, like, it was called Track Technique, at the
Oh
time.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But so that was like my big thing, is just, it just, I just definitely felt like that was a huge area that needed to be addressed.
Very cool.
um but basically, like, I finished up the 3 years there, and then I had heard from Roberta and from Jan Samuelson. Jan had been the head coach
Oh
at
yeah.
EU
Hmm.
for a long, Jan Samuelson
Right,
Ogilvy,
right.
obviously.
Yeah, that's right.
And they had said, hey, um, at URI, Lauren Anderson is moving into administration. They're looking for an acting head coach, and I think you should apply. So it was kind of like word of mouth,
Hmm.
and I definitely remember Roberta and Jan were definitely supportive and told me about it. And
Hmm.
then, but we didn't know if Lauren would then come back to her position as coach
Yeah.
or stay in administration, because Ellie Lemaire, who is this big, um, Ellie actually passed away, but she was a senior women's administrator, like, administrator here at URI, um, a huge pioneer in women's athletics. So she was retiring. Lauren was stepping into her spot,
Okay.
and so I interviewed with them. I totally remember, it was like, literally, I went to the Olympic trials at New Orleans, right? 1992, New
Yep.
Orleans, with the trials.
Yep.
And then I think I had to, like, leave the trials and interview, or it was like somewhere around that time.
Right, right.
And and on that time, I met the present head men's coach, John Copeland, at the trials. And
Oh,
and
Cope. Yep.
Copeland is an amazing,
Yep.
he finished up, he retired in 2021,
Yep.
but um he's amazing. And so that's kind of how it happened, where, like, I interviewed and I did get this position, not knowing if it would only be for a year,
Yeah.
but obviously I'm still here, so it only
Yeah,
takes.
that's right. We're still acting. We don't know what's going to happen in 2027.
Right.
That's, Lori, it strikes me like the word that just kind of hit me when you talk about that is in thinking about some of the other things that you've accomplished up to this point in your life, bravery. And what I mean by that is uh, acting. There was no guarantees
Yeah.
that the next year you were going to come back and you'd be call it back to the drawing board again of where am I going to go, what am I going to do, etc. Why? What led you to pursue that job? I mean, you could have easily said, "Hey, I appreciate that. I'm going to go interview for other jobs, or stay at Miami for crying out loud." Like you had options. This wasn't like a desperation, like I needed the job. That takes again. Yeah, go back to the chutzpah word here. That
Yeah.
takes some bravery here.
I think it was probably to be able to have my own program,
Hmm.
and I was pretty young.
Yeah.
I think well, let's see, I probably was 28 or 29 at the
Hmm.
time,
Hmm.
and and then it was an opportunity. It was a huge opportunity, and I enjoyed my interview, and yeah, and it was, yeah, I guess it was a big decision because here I grew up in New York, 3 years in Ohio. Now I'm moving to Rhode Island. I know nothing really about Rhode Island, right?
Right, right,
I know
right.
it's a small state, but
Yeah, we all learned that. Yeah.
yeah. And and there was a lot to build because we literally, I think there were like 14 kids on the entire team. We are not
Oh,
talking a huge team. It was a very small team.
right, right, right.
So, um, and then my husband and I were not married at the time,
Okay.
but I said, "You are coming with me."
If you want to get married, you're moving to Rhode
Yeah.
Island,
I
buddy.
said, "John, we're doing, and
Where is he from? Where would he call home?
so John's from outside of Syracuse. So he's like from
Oh, okay.
small town farmland.
But that way, like I was thinking, you said Ball
Yeah.
State and Oxford, so I was thinking like, oh, is he a Midwest guy? But no,
Yeah.
he was a Northeast guy. Okay,
Yeah.
so this wasn't like a crazy stretch. Like, hey, if you want to marry me, we're going to Montana, boy. And it's like, oh my God, Montana, what are you talking about? It's like, okay, this is a close to air
Yeah.
quotes homecoming as far as the region anyway.
Yeah. It was, and then he went to SUNY Plattsburgh, so he's like a New
Hmm.
Yorker, and
Yeah.
but when we both came out here, um, he wasn't on staff right away, so that took a little bit of time. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Oh,
So,
right, 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 right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but
What, how long did it take before we were moved to acting and it was I'm saying you demand. You were the one. You're the one in
yeah,
the job. How long was that? A one
I
season?
I think it was a year. I think it was technically a year. Like the contract probably said like a year. Yeah.
During that year, did you feel like, because this is a unique situation. So not only are you acting, but the person who was in your job is now your boss. Is that
Yeah. Yeah.
fair? Or
Yeah.
at least someone in an authority position. She went into administration. Did you feel how much did you feel like someone was looking over your shoulder? I'm going to do some things differently. Is that going to upset her? Like I mean, that just there could be some awkwardness there. I feel.
I think it was probably a smooth transition because she was she was learning under Ellie Lemaire. Obviously, Ellie was like retired and an amazing leader.
Right.
And so Lauren was moving into admin, and I'm sure I asked her a million and one questions
Core.
because
I would hope you would.
obviously,
Yeah.
right. And so I don't think it was awkward. I think it was probably a supportive
Oh,
environment.
good. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. It could be awkward if that other person makes it awkward.
Right,
Yeah. Yeah.
right,
But sometimes we get in our own way, right? And there's imposter syndrome.
yeah,
It's like, oh man, is that how she would have done it? What is she going to think when I don't go to this meet or I don't recruit as many distance runners as her? Again, we talk to ourselves sometimes worse than other people talk to us. We're our own worst enemy sometimes. So I could see that. But if you get support from that individual and your other rest of your administration, it does take away that like, oh, okay, this really is my program, at least for now, while as they're making that decision. So, and then you go into they drop the acting. I'm always when someone gets named interim head coach, I always email them like, hey, so what do we have to do to remove interim? Like that's a dumb word.
right,
That was acting, dumb word. Get rid of that thing. But the next year, you become the full time
right,
head
right.
of
I
women's.
think it was
Yeah,
like a year later, because
yeah.
back then I don't even know, did we have contracts on?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Again, that's so different now, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you take over, we'll call this acting year as your first year, of course. You take over the women's program there at URI in 90, say 92.
1992, right?
So that's, yeah, I'm from Alabama, so math's not always my strong suit. That's 30 plus years ago. when you first got there, could you even conceive 30 years from now, I'm still going to be the leader of this program?
No, I don't think I ever thought, like, do I think that that was my job for the rest of my life? I
Right.
mean, to be honest with you, I only applied to one other position in this 33 odd,
Hmm.
and it was
Hmm.
Rutgers, you know.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Right,
Yeah,
right, right, right.
it was, um, but it was interesting. I wouldn't have been able to bring my husband, because John and I coach together. We both coach on the women's side.
Right.
So we both coach on the women's side, and there are many institutions that will not allow that.
Yeah, I was going to get to that. Don't worry. Yeah, absolutely. So let's hop right into
Yeah,
it. So,
okay.
because I was just talking to some, I can't remember what the context was, but yeah, their spouse, and I don't remember if it's a coaching staff or it was in athletics. So that's all I
Yeah.
talk in this world. So they have to report to someone else, so they
Yes.
don't
Yeah.
report. So how does URI handle it, or and what was the was this a welcome, or was it like, all right, we're gonna test you guys, or whatever.
Well, oh, it took a while, Mike. So Mike, so John was he was like an adjunct professor, and then he was volunteering with my program for a while. And then to be honest with you, we kind of were fortunate because this is back many years ago, but Jim Harrick was a coach here, a
Hmm.
basketball coach. Jim Harrick wanted us to hire his son. So Harrick hired his son. And then I don't know if I pushed for it, was like, whoa, if he can hire his
Yeah,
son,
exactly.
my husband could, and honestly, but since, because it's all about the like it's all the
Yeah, yeah,
nepotism,
yeah, yeah,
everything. So
yeah,
and
yeah.
so to this day now, like if someone is coming in, no, they cannot, you are not allowed to, I
Right,
mean,
right, right.
yeah. So I don't know how it exactly worked,
Yeah.
but we
But just keep moving on. Don't ask
yeah,
questions.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
get it.
And
I get it.
and John and I are happily married, 31 years, and we're still
Yeah,
coaching together. Yep.
man. First of all,
Crazy.
congrats on that. My wife and I have been married for 17, almost 18 years now.
That's a long time.
And it is. And we very much uphold the sanctity of, like, it's a big deal for us that we stay married and married for long. And we're in small groups with individuals who are much older than us. And so they have 30 and 40 year, and it's like we strive for that. Like, so when I hear someone who's married for 20, 30 plus years, that it's bravo. Because I know that ain't easy either, by the way. That's not a steady, like, oh, everything's been great for the whole of our life. It's like, it's like everything else. There's highs and lows. So I bravo to you and John, man. That means a lot. I do like that. That's a great example. It's a great example you guys are setting again for the young people that are in your care there. So I love that example. Okay, so I asked you, when you got there in '92, could you foresee 30 years? I'm going to be here and still be the leader. And you said no, and I appreciate that because that's the honest answer. I don't know how many people, you may say that because it sounds good when you first get a job, like, this is my retirement job. Whenever I see like a football coach that says this is my retirement job, I'm like, oh, they'll be gone in 5 years then. Okay, because that's not true. You get out of here.
Yeah.
It happens. You don't plan it. It happens. So love that. Appreciate the honest answer. So you didn't see 30 years from now still be the leader here. So why? What has been 30 years? What I'll say what's kept you there. And what I mean by that is, just like you talked about, there was only one place that you had applied for, which makes a lot of sense, your alma mater. But there's a lot of other schools that I'm sure either did take a run at you or wanted to take a run at you, and you're still here, the leader. What has kept you there at University of Rhode Island for over 30 years?
It's a beautiful area where we live, and it's a really good school. Um, we're like 9 miles, 8 miles to the to Narragansett Bay. We live in Narragansett.
Hmm.
I mean, living in the southern part of Rhode Island, it's beautiful. The summers, it's quality of life. We live about, it takes 17 minutes to drive here. We live in Narragansett, and I'm like thankful I don't have to commute.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even, I mean, I grew up in Long Island. I can't imagine these people commuting to New York City every day, and so that I think is amazing. The people here, within the university. I mean, even just because we've been through, well, this is our third president, and the president that we have now is absolutely amazing, and really the reason that we are getting this new outdoor track and field facility.
Oh,
But
really?
we'll talk about
Nice.
that, I know.
Yep, 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 yep.
But so and then so you, I guess, do you know like how long you're going to stay at your position? And I think that's so crazy where you don't know. I mean, our daughter was born in 2001, so we're here, 1992. Then Molly's born in 2001, and then Adam was born in 2003. And then life, you're like, okay, we can make this work. We do not have any relatives in Rhode Island, but
It's tough.
I encourage all of our young coaches that you can do it. You can have a family. It's
Yeah.
amazing. You can do it.
Yeah. Put a pin in that because I definitely do
Yeah.
want to go into that.
Oh,
I
sorry.
love that. No, no, you're doing great. So I like to think of things as skills because I come from a coaching background, right? So, long jumping is a skill. If you start out as an 18-foot long jumper and you get coached, you can learn how to become a 20-foot long jumper and take that to every event, right? So coaching to me is a skill. So I love that. So when we talk about coaching education, that means you can, if you practice it and listen and learn, you can become a better coach. Being a head coach, I think, is a skill, meaning I have to believe, Laurie, that head coach, you were head coach Fight back then, but head coach Feit-Melnick in 92 is a different head coach than today, meaning you are better. You've had 33 years of practice to become a better head coach. How are you a better coach? When you think back to whether it was call it hard skills, meaning like I had to budget for the first time, I had to schedule meets, I had to equipment, and you know what, I'm better at my time management of those things now. How I relate to young people, I've learned to be better at that. How have you become? Because you obviously are doing some things right. Because Rhode Island is an at-will state, meaning they could have got rid of you at any time if they thought you weren't doing a good job, right? You've had 33 years of good job, one more year. How are you a better coach? I'm hoping to like extract some things here for people who are listening that are in their first year of coaching, of head coaching, or even someone who thinks like, I can't be a head coach. That's too hard today. I'm too young or I'm too old to be a head coach now. I'm trying to have a conversation around how from 92 to 2026 how you've become a better coach and how did you do it, meaning was it a class, was it mentorship, was it trial and error? I made a lot of mistakes, and talk to us through some of those.
Well, I don't know if I'm a better coach now. I mean, it's like that's always the question. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like even though I've been coaching for 33 years here, there's still so much to learn
Hmm.
because like an athlete that I coached in the 90s is different than an athlete coaching now.
Right.
But I feel that, through the years, it's understanding that it's it's trying to reach the student athlete. It's like you want that person to have a great student athlete experience. And it's not always linear where, you've got a lot of ups and downs. I mean,
Right.
it might be illness, it might be, that they're stressing. I mean, my gosh, everything since COVID and
Mm.
like life is a lot different. So I feel as a coach now, we have to wear a lot of hats.
Yeah.
Maybe it's more so than, you know, back in the 90s.
Right.
I'm not exactly sure, but I feel like it's super important that like my team knows if they want to come and talk to me, my door is open. I also really try and have food here because I like to feed people. So
You are a
let's make,
mom. I love
I know.
that.
It is totally like a mom thing, but like, yeah, you want to make a peanut butter jelly sandwich, just come right in, I got apples, I got granola bars, but it's the connections. It's like,
Mm.
I mean, I have some women who are full-time coaches now, and that is like so cool.
Hmm.
And then we've got some of our women. Well, I told you this story. Shannon married Trent. Shannon
Hmm.
was my high jumper here.
Right.
So married Trent Baltzell, who is our
Yeah,
head men's coach. And I don't know if I'm answering your question, but
you're good.
I know that I know that we just have to like be patient, and it's not always about wins and losses. It's
Right.
really about the connections and helping our student athletes be the best student athletes that they can be, in the
Mhm.
classroom and obviously in the track and field facility.
Right.
But it's definitely very different, I feel now, than maybe even in the 90s. You know what I mean?
How so?
I mean, I think COVID's been really hard on a lot of people.
Mm.
Um, and that's mental health, I mean, a lot of different things, how they learn, obviously what they've gone through. And I mean, from every age, like the person
Hmm.
that is a young kid through COVID, or I mean, I had a very high end athlete who she made 6 Division I national championships, a lot to black. And I remember long conversations when we were dealing with, okay, we can't train indoors, like
Hmm.
just there's a lot of mental, it was a very tough time,
Hmm. Hmm.
trying to find meets, not
Yeah.
being allowed to go to meets, but that's,
Yeah.
so,
Do you
but
think you've seen a lot of kids and kids have grown up to become, highly functioning adults? Do you think it's always interesting to me about what we say about young people today, and today meaning what we said about young people when you and I were alive in 2000 versus what we say today? There's a lot of negativity towards young people. Do you see much of a difference between, I'm gonna say, a freshman coming in today in 2025 versus 1995, and notwithstanding what you mentioned there about, well, yeah, because COVID did X, Y, and Z, meaning like their drive, their want to be good. That's probably just another definition of drive, by the way. Their attitude towards a coach, those kind of things. Do you see much of a difference between 95 kid versus 2025 kid?
I mean, I think the biggest difference probably is, remember in 1995, we didn't have really cell phones, right?
Yeah, no, not at all. Thank
Yeah.
God.
So, right. So I almost feel like that's a huge difference, where, you're a kid growing up and you're playing outside. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
you're like a kid growing up and you're outside all the time. And now some of these kids, they're inside on their social media way too
Right,
much. So
right,
so I feel like, yeah, when we have like a recruit visit, can you have a conversation with them? You don't want them to be on their phone while you're, what I mean,
right,
things like that.
right,
That's
right.
that's key. So I think some of that is different. I mean, we have a great freshman class this year and we have a great sophomore class. So I feel we've got people that want to work and be good. Um, and then but I feel like it has changed, through, there's a lot of more, there's a lot of mental health issues
Yeah.
now. I mean, I
Hmm.
think there's always been, we know there's always been,
Hmm.
but um but I do feel, especially like I said, since COVID and everything, there's a lot, and there's too much emphasis on social media
Right.
and comparing yourself, and now
Yeah.
you can see everyone's Strava, and some of it is just
Right.
too much. It's
Yeah.
just not healthy, I don't think.
Yeah, I think you said the right word. If we can agree that comparison is the thief of joy, well, it is certainly much easier not only to compare yourself to others in today's social media and Strava world, but to be forced to compare yourself to others. Certainly in 1995 we could compare ourselves. We had, we all did this. So I graduated high school in '94. So in the early '90s, I would read the newspaper to find out what the other kids in the county ran, right? So that was a comparison. That was
Right,
either like,
right.
oh my God, Joey ran that. Oh, God, dang it, I'm not running that fast. Or, ha ha, ha, Timmy ran this. I'm going to be able to destroy him at conference or whatever, right? So we still had comparison. Now today, I can't, and I don't know much about Strava, but I think I know enough. I can get on my Strava and see what everybody else ran. Like it's almost like I can't not see what other people are running, or I can't. It's hard for me to get on Instagram and not see what the workout is at Ithaca or the Villanova, whatever. It's almost like forced comparison now, and I think that potentially could be a not so great for our young people to have to deal with, or certainly they're going to have to develop other skills to get over that aspect of what life looks like today with a cell phone permanently attached to our hand, essentially.
Right, right.
Okay, Laurie, when we started the podcast back in, so really starting late 2019, right? The first interview was January of 2020, but we had to think about what were we going to call this thing and what was going to be our focus, right? And one of the dumb names that I think I thought about at one time was Mythbusters, right? Have you ever seen that show, Mythbusters?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
I
I
love
have.
that show. Yeah, because I love busting myths. I love busting myths on the coach profession side, right? So, my whole jam is track and field coaches. I want to uplift and honor. I want to be. I had one person coach come by and said, "Man, Mike, you are the biggest cheerleader for track and field coaches." And that was one of the greatest compliments I've ever had. Man, I love that. Right. And so to do that, we have to sometimes have difficult conversations. I sometimes have to tell a coach, "You're wrong" in this thought process, etc. So Mythbusters was one of those thoughts of the podcast name because one of the myths out there that sometimes we self properly begin from Alabama. I'm trying to use too much of a big word that we expand on our own is that women can't coach, and if they can coach, when they become a spouse, they they can't coach then, or okay, maybe you can coach, but you certainly can't coach and be a mom, or maybe they can, but not on the college level. Or maybe they can, but they can't be the head coach. Laura, you've done all of these things. You're a head coach who's married and a mom. So you have busted all of these myths. How, knowing that it doesn't just because you did them and did them well, that does not mean that it was easy. As there are young ladies listening now who are in the coaching profession and thinking like, oh, sure, I'm a coach until I meet my husband and have kids or whatever, and then I'll have to stop or whatever. How did you navigate? Because it's not easy. It's not easy being a mom, first of all, being a parent. You said you had two, I think.
Yeah, we have
Yeah,
two.
same. I got two freshmen in high school and sixth graders, so I'm a little before you on that side. But you know what I'm going through then because you know what you know what kids are like. Uh, how did you and John navigate going through having young children, still having to do the job, still having to coach, still being very invested into your young athletes that are in front of you? How did you guys navigate some of the hard times that I'm assuming you had, or maybe you were just perfect, Lori, and everything was just awesome?
No, no, the biggest challenge is that we don't have any relatives here, and
Yes.
um so so when John's parents were alive, they're in Syracuse, and his siblings would, help out if we were to travel to an A10 championship and you're not, and in many cases we dragged our kids to several meets too. So, but it's also the unique thing is like you can sometimes find some women on the team that do like children
Yeah.
and they are amazing babysitters. And then it even gets to a situation where when Molly, who is our eldest, who's 24 now, when she's around 4 years old, she's in the wedding, you know what I mean, of like someone who graduated from URI because
Aww.
this person, Nikki Sample, had watched her for years, you know what I mean? So it is trying to be creative and make it work. Also, when they're really young, like I mean, in 2001, um, Molly, our daughter, was say 4 months, and I had an individual that made nationals at Furman and in cross country. So
Mhm.
Erin Silvering made nationals in 2001, and I said, I'm not going to miss. I'm not going to miss nationals because number one, that's huge, and I want to be there for Erin. And I'm a new mom. I'm going to bring, I'm going to bring my kid.
Mhm.
And obviously John traveled
Mhm.
with me too, but there there's a lot, there's a lot of learning um and it's interesting, but you're just trying to, how can you have there's that saying that I love, you want to have a community. So you want to have, no,
Mm,
there's a different word for it. It's, you know what I'm talking about. It's,
yeah, no, that's a key community though. Yeah.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
a
Yep.
community. So
Yep.
you can have support.
Yeah.
And I mean, like when I go to convention, I absolutely love the women's coaching
Mm-hmm.
symposium.
Yep.
And that's on the Monday of convention. And I love it just
Yep.
hearing, and if we can just support that, you can do it. I
Yep.
mean, you need help, there's no doubt about it, but you can be a coach and you can have a family.
Yeah.
You can make this happen,
Yeah.
um and it's sometimes it's hard,
Yeah.
and sometimes I had to fight for things even here so
Mm-hmm.
I could bring my child in and nurse them or things like that. There was a
Right.
lot of things that I kind of had to fight,
Right.
but
Right.
now I think we're in a definitely better era than, even in like the early 2000s.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's, yeah, we just have to keep encouraging people. And if you look at the country, obviously you see most of the combined programs are male.
Mm-hmm.
Male coaches is coaching a combined program.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'm just a big believer that, we why can't there be more women that
Yeah.
are the head of a combined program?
Yeah,
So
I agree with that. And it bears repeating the women in coaching program there at USTF CCCA. I love that. I love how it's grown, to be honest with you. It started out, I think, roughly 20, 30 women, and now it's much larger than that. So I love the leaders that continue to grow and pour into that. And, I always say, when I look at track and field, on the high school side, when you add boys and girls together, it's the largest sport and participation. When you look at college and you add the men and women together, it's the largest participation sport. So overall, basketball, football, and all that kind of stuff, more people are running track combined. And roughly, just rough numbers, it's roughly 50% men and 50% girls. 50% women and 50% boys. High school level, it's roughly 50-50. College, roughly 50-50. And when I look at our coaches across the country, I don't see roughly 50-50. Now, not that it necessarily should mimic exactly what your participation rate would be, but it should be close-ish in my opinion. So I love programs like that. I love the programs like Women for Women up in the Minnesota, Wisconsin area. They do a great job. But I think the key word you said there, and knowing that, first of all, I'm a guy, so I'm not a mom. I also didn't coach when I had children, so that's totally different. But I think the key word there is community. And you mentioned how it's much a little bit harder it was because you didn't have family in the area. And by the way, I was a guy who thought like, oh, we can still do it. When my in-laws moved down to where we were, life got infinitely easier. Just for the emergency side of things, I'm like, man, I need someone to pick up the kid, or oh my God, I whatever. To be able to have someone, oh, it just makes and someone you trust life so much easier, right? So if you're not going to have that, I think you're right and you're spot on. I think that's maybe the lesson for someone who's listening and saying, man, I just don't think I can do it. You can. It's going to be a lot harder with the lower amounts of community, but the more you build your community, your trusted community, whether that's through your program, through a church, through your neighborhood, etc., through your teammates, your other coaches, in your athletic department, your other co-workers there. I think that it's never going to be easy, but I think that certainly helps make it easier than if you have a lack of that community. I think that's the key word there is community.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thanks for those encouraging words there. I think again, it is important. As a advocate of track and field coaches, I always want to encourage more women into coaching. I want to encourage more minorities. The same thing could be said. Again, very large swath here. Roughly, our athletes are 50% African American, 50% white. Again, don't come at me on the Twitter comments. I know there's a lot of other races, and I'm being a big generalization here. But when I look at my coaches, I don't necessarily see 50% minority, 50% white. It's a very male, white dominated sport, even though we've made great strides in our minorities and women. We can make more. And the reason I'm so passionate about it is because I really just care about good people who are going to coach young people to be better society. Because at the end of the day, Laurie, 99% of the kids that you coach are not going to go pro. Let's just
Right.
be real here. But 100% of them are going to go on to become moms and dads, spouses, business owners, clergy, coaches, etc. So to me, that's the real value that you give as a coach to society is you're helping raise good young people. And I'd like for society to be full of good people because I gotta grocery shop in this society. I gotta go buy cars in this society. I want good people around me, right? So I think that's what I want. I want more good, great women to impact young people. I want more great minority coaches to impact young people. And I think again, we're making great strides, but we got to continue and encourage that. That's what I love about that women coaching program there in for USTFCA. It's really I see when you guys come out because you come out when we are in our vendor stage,
Yeah.
and I actually do a live recording of the podcast at the booth. And so I'm always trying to get, because I'm like, oh, you guys come out. I'm an hour in. Come on. I want someone to sit down and tell me what you guys talk about and, tell people more about the program. But I see when you guys come out of the room and, you guys are typically the smiley group anyway, but man, you guys just like I could just see how much energy you've gotten from that program when you come out. It's like, man, it feels like you are at the top of your game. Like it feels like women walk out of that program going, dude, I can take over the world. Like I can actually do this. Now how do I extend that for the next 365 days and for the next 4 years and 20 years? It's like, how do we keep that energy and that drive and that belief in self? So I love programs like that. I love that you're involved in that. And it's just, it's changing our game, changing our profession in a very much positive way. So I love that aspect.
Yeah, it's a really positive meeting, and
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not involved with like the meeting part of
Hmm.
it, but I I always want to make sure I'm attending it, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? And
Hmm.
it's great, and
Hmm.
it's just wonderful to have everyone there.
Love that. All right, let's turn our attention a couple more topics here. Oh, we got a little bit of time. So you mentioned, directors of programs. So, and I think I haven't heard much of it lately. For a while, we had a trend where we were taking men and women's programs and we were combining. It felt like I haven't necessarily heard that. Maybe I haven't heard it much lately because we're down to not many separate programs. But how do you? And you had as you were legendary there, Laurie, on the women's side, you had what would you call that? You had a teammate on the other side, but that was legendary as well. Cope on the men's side. So I mean, you had two legendary track coaches there at URI that had been there for a long time doing things. How do you navigate that? You have another program that's very similar, meaning like they got the 100-meter dash, they got the 5,000, et cetera, except for their boys, and you have girls on your side. How do you navigate what you're doing with your program? How do you navigate where you guys should be? I'm gonna call it commingling, meaning like traveling together for a meet and things like that. How do you guys handle that?
Um, well, now working with Trent, I mean, we just really try and communicate. I mean, we pretty much like we make our own flight arrangements, he makes his flight arrangements, but come outdoor, if we're both going to say, Yukon for a meet and we've got two buses, then we will work together. It's like, okay, our 800-meter or up can go in the later bus. So we work together with that.
Right.
But pretty much like we're doing our own, like I'm doing my own food, he's doing his own food and
Mm,
all of that. But it's a great, we are like we're hosting pretty much like when we have a meet here, the pentathlon hep is December 4th, and then we have a small three-way meet on December 5th. His
mhm,
heptathlon is the 4th to the 5th, so we're all working together, and
mhm,
it's a good, just a great atmosphere. I mean, there's and since like I just asked him this morning, I'm like, hey, are you having practice Friday, excuse me, are you having practice Saturday morning? And he's
mhm.
like, yeah, I'm practicing at 9, so I don't want to be, sometimes it's easier not to have like the jumpers at the same time because you just you've got
Right.
different runways and
Right.
and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I feel like it's a real good working relationship.
Mhm.
And um I didn't mention to you, but our son is on the men's team.
Oh, I meant to ask if your kids did track, actually. Yeah. So your
But
son's on the men's team. Oh, so you got
yeah,
inside knowledge of what's going on
yeah,
over
no.
there.
so but that's just kind of cool, from like the mom standpoint, but
Yeah.
obviously Brian Doyle coaches Adam
Hmm.
and Trenton and Brian Doyle and Ben, they have an amazing program.
Yeah.
And we do have a shared pole vault coach right now.
Yep.
That's Casey
Typical.
Sturts,
Yep.
and
Hmm.
that's awesome. So she's like our part-time pole vault coach.
Yeah.
She competed at Monmouth at a high level,
Yeah.
and she's shared, and we make, she makes that work where it's like
Right.
the guys and the women are, vaulting at the same time, or
Right. Right.
so I think it's it's a really good, healthy atmosphere,
Yeah.
and everyone gets to know each other,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
What did you say your son's name is Adam?
yes, so
Wh-
Adam is a mid distance
Oh,
kid.
okay. I was gonna ask, and your daughter Megan, I believe you said.
Molly,
I knew it was an M. Dang
Molly,
it. Did she
it's
run
fine.
track?
No, she ran in high school, and
Yeah.
then she graduated from here in 2023, and she's in grad school now. And then Adam is a true senior now, but he's got eligibility, so he's looking
Yeah.
at maybe we always encourage use the eligibility. It's like a
Yeah.
huge commodity, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, in the
Yeah.
sense
Yeah.
that if you've got a fifth year, and so he'll stay next year, and he'll either do a master's, that type of thing.
Yeah. And
And
obviously we know John coaches your husband and their
yes.
dad. Was John a track athlete as well?
Yeah, John, actually interesting because John coaches sprints, hurdles, like basically, anyone 800 down that's not multis, and
Right.
and he coached pole vault for years, but now we've got Casey. But
Man.
yes, he was a runner at SUNY Plattsburgh,
Hmm.
actually a distance runner.
Yeah. I was right.
So
So
we learn, you have to learn a lot of different events.
yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, so these kids, I mean, there was no shot they were going to do track at some form or fat. I mean, they just live in a track family, going to track practice from day one, basically. They just grew up around track.
Yeah, when they were young, there's a lot of bouncing on the high jump pits.
Yeah, that's true. I got to think about that when we design high jump pits. I got to remember, like, hey, you know what? It's not just the high jumper that's going to be on that thing.
No.
There's going to be somebody's kid on that thing. That's true.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I love that. I love that. So when you talk about communication, communication is one of those things it's interesting. It should be the easiest thing in the world. Like, again, today I can pick up a phone and call anybody. I can DM anybody around the world, for crying out loud. So communication should be easy. But it's like the hardest thing in the world sometimes, just to make sure you're talking to other people and telling them things that they should know and you just don't even think they should know or whatever. Do you guys, you and Trent, you and the men's program, do you guys like, I'm trying to just think like, again, other people who have separate programs and how can we help them? Do you guys meet regularly, or like, do you have like one big meeting I'm assuming maybe in the summer is when you do like a lot of scheduling and, budgeting and stuff like that. Do you guys like do one big meeting in the summer? Do you meet monthly? Is it more haphazard? How do you actually, like when you talked about this one seemed a little bit more haphazard of like, hey, are you practicing on Saturday? And that seems very appropriate that that's a haphazard one, right? But when you're scheduling the same buses for conference or things like that, how do you try to cadence out your communication to make sure both sides are, openly knowing what you're doing and vice versa?
Um, well, I mean, pretty much like, making arrangements for like conference is like, we're doing our arrangements, and Trent, is doing his arrangements.
Okay.
If it's like a regular meet, hey, maybe we're heading up to Holy Cross or we're heading up to Yukon, then we have a bus, he has a bus, and then we're just pretty much communicating like the week of. But definitely over the summer, we've since we're building this facility, so
Mhm.
lots of talk about the facility.
Yeah, right. Hmm.
And then I think we just have a relationship where, Trent will walk down to our office or we'll walk over to his.
Right.
And so I wouldn't say it's like, every week we're meeting. I would
Yeah.
just say, we're obviously touching base, like, oh, hey, are we allowing unattached athletes at our pentathlon, and then we're just
Right.
trying to communicate, and um or we send an email
Yeah.
reminder, like things like that. So
Yeah.
so
Because I just thought about this. You've actually kind of a little bit on the sidelines because he was on the men's team. You've seen Trent grow. I didn't even think about that. It's like, oh my, he was an athlete there. So you've seen him like little Trent freshman to like now Trent the head coach over there. That's
Yeah,
kind of
he
cool,
married our
actually.
Mike, he married our high
That's right.
jumper.
Yeah, that's right. That's really cool, man.
It
That's
is pretty cool,
interesting.
yeah.
That's good. Well, you made a great transition there, Laura. It's like you've been doing this podcast thing for a long time. You mentioned the new facility there. I believe, and we all do here actually, healthy things grow. So when we see a facility, a school, a program, whether it's building a new facility or adding coaches to their staff, or the other day we saw a press release, a school down in Virginia is adding indoor track. Those are really good things. That is growth. And if you think about your garden, your kids, etc., healthy things grow. They don't grow if they're not healthy, right? So love that the University of Rhode Island has committed to and is like probably right out your window right now. You can see they're moving dirt on this really amazing outdoor facility. That's got to be exciting. I assume even for you distance runners, right? It's got to be exciting, right?
It's huge. I mean,
Mm.
I mean, this is a state of the art facility. This is going to be a 9 lane, 9 lane track. I mean, the throws, it's just huge because we really have not used the outdoor track. We're talking since the 90s.
Oh,
We're talking the 90s, you know what I
wow.
mean?
Yeah.
And we definitely thought it would happen, sooner, but we are just so really pleased and it's just a appreciation and it's really because of President Parlange, like our president now, who's in his 5th year,
Mhm.
working with the governor
Right.
to set aside money to upgrade not only the track but the football stands and
Yeah, that's right. It's a
other.
big project. That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
big. So, but they're moving. Like Trent goes out there every day, John pretty much, and Trent's like a social media guy, so he takes his picture and posts it, and it's so exciting, and I totally believe it will help every single event because
Yeah.
from a distance runner, then you could do tempos there, you could do so much from every single event.
Yeah.
We've never had an outdoor track to even use during like fall program when we're training like from September on.
Wow.
I mean, we have an indoor steeple like little barrier,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
from every event, from the
Wow.
steeple to, and they keep saying it will be done summer of 2026. So that's what will happen.
That's
And
right. You'll coach them
and
through it. That's right. Exactly.
but but also, I mean, to be able to host the high
Yeah.
school meet, to host a high school New England championships, and we would like to put in a bid for the outdoor Atlantic 10 meet in
Yeah.
2028.
Yes.
So it's
Absolutely.
huge.
Most coaches, it's interesting. I have to sometimes take a step
Mm,
back and remember this. So I've been here almost 20 years now. And so I've been able to do lots of facilities. Like, I do several facilities every year, right? But I have to remember most coaches, maybe on average, and it's probably the actual average is probably under one when you do math, right? But most coaches will only do a facility once in their entire career. It's just kind of the way it goes, right? We don't URI is not going to do a new facility in 10 years, right? It's going to be 30, 40 maybe years before they'll, have to redo this facility. So what have you, as you're going through this process, what have you, like, what's been like an aha moment? Like, oh, I didn't know that we had to think about this, or, oh, I didn't even think about irrigation or what, you've been in a lot of these meetings. What's been something that you just been like, man, I did not know that you had to consider that, whether it was you or, someone in your administration, what was just something, maybe a aha moment, as you're going through this process?
I would say there's just so much that goes into the process.
Hmm.
Um, and I mean, by the way, we're not supposed to like really be out there when the engine, when
Yeah, right.
yeah, but we had a groundbreaking ceremony, which was huge. The governor came down,
Nice.
Speaker of the House,
Man.
to celebrate, and there were over 200, maybe 300 people there,
Wow.
university community and outside community. But no, there is a lot that, oh my goodness, that goes into this. I mean, you should see the dirt, the amount of like the mountains, and
Right.
I mean, this is also, I'm not like a technical like this is a lot is above my
Sure, sure.
head, where I can't even, so I mean, but they're hopefully going to start pouring soon. I don't know. There's
Yeah.
like, it's
Yeah.
just, there's a,
You're talking like a real contractor. We're gonna start pouring soon. Yeah, yeah. I don't know what that means, but we're gonna do that.
but
Yeah.
I am not an expert when it comes to any of that. Okay, when we put in the conduit in, I don't,
Right, right,
but
right.
it's a huge project, and
Yeah.
they've been working so hard. So it technically began end of August, like
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but we had our ceremony like a month later,
Right, right.
but they're moving on it. Like they're
Yeah.
trying to get as much done as they can before it gets really cold.
Yeah, yeah. So you got that, where you're at. That's a
Yeah.
consideration. Yeah, yeah. It is amazing. Things that you wouldn't even think about that you have to think about when you're doing a facility like this. What I'm really proud of, honestly, for the University of Rhode Island. So again, I do, several of these facilities every year. We have done a terrible job in athletics, high school and college, of interfacing with the coach when it comes to the facility. Typically, the stage that you're at right now with what we call the in grounds, everything that go, from sandpit forms to hammer cages, things like that. Typically, they tell the coach, yeah, coach, you just stay over there. Us facility AD and GCs, we'll figure that part out. Not realizing that the very person who's going to be on that track every single day probably knows a little bit about pole vault box installations, like which way they should go, and which way should the runways go, and why is it important to have this big of a D zone versus that, and things like that, right? And they almost never involve the track coaches. Now, when they get to the what I call the fun stuff, hurdles and pits, things that we see very easily every day, then they'll kind of bring the coach in and say, what colors you thinking, what kind of design for your gate board, all that kind of stuff, and that's great. But I've been proud of the University of Rhode Island of how much they've involved you guys
Yeah.
on the actual this day. That's rare. And I'm talking about rare from the highest of levels to the lowest level. There is no like, oh, the big schools always involved. I'm telling you, some of the biggest schools you could imagine don't talk to again the very person that's going to be on that track every single day. And so I've seen vault boxes that are go right into the prevailing headwind. I've seen just many mistakes, the costly mistakes and just terrible design mistakes because they won't ask the men and women who are in the chair that will step on there. So I love that your administration has been feels like very intentional on involving you guys for that process.
Yeah, and even back in, I think it was around COVID, when Copeland was still here, we had a lot of walkthroughs with the architectural or the engineering firm and a lot of walkthroughs out there. So
Yeah.
so I think that they have been including us in and that is important so that right, like okay, make sure that the start finish line is at the right spot, like the
Yeah.
winds and everything, so
I've seen it, sadly. I'm not, I've only been here 20 years, not 40, but I feel like I've seen everything. I've seen vault boxes put in backwards. I've seen, no takeoff boards put in at all. I mean, just things where it's just like, guys, if you would have just asked your track coach, you could have saved so much money and time. Like it's ridiculous. So, just hats off to your administration. Like again, that's a rarity. It's not, your other peers that you talk to are not typically involved in this. And so I love that they had trust and faith in your knowledge and experiences there. It's really cool. It's great to see, honestly. I wish more would wisen up in that aspect. Laurie, as we start to wrap up here, and maybe an obvious answer is going to be the track, but as you look into the future and you get to define that, is that this season, 5 years, 10 years, who knows? You tell us. What's got you excited there at the University of Rhode Island for track and field and cross country?
having this facility,
Yeah,
I
easy
I
answer, right?
I mean, it's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, we have never worked here where we're in the sense of, I think back, okay, so if we got here in 92, John reminded me, maybe we had one outdoor meet there,
Wow.
but we literally from like the mid 90s on, were not allowed to use that facility. So, so this is huge.
Yeah.
For us to be able to use it and huge for the community as well, like for
Mm.
Special Olympics to have an event here
Oh,
and
right. Yes.
everything,
Yes.
from the community and even our exercise science program here or our neuroscience, if from the university standpoint and our president is a runner, so he's excited.
Oh, that's always
but
helpful.
but but no, I mean I that is like one I just feel, there's so much to continue to learn as a coach. How can I be a better coach? And it just never seems to end. And it's something that I love to do. Not ready to retire yet. Looking
Yeah.
forward to this facility
Yeah.
and just super excited about, being able to use it.
Yeah. It's like
From
it's giving you energy, Lori. Not that you had low energy before, but boy, I can see like just your face lights up. Like I can actually like see the movie. It feels like you're playing in your head of like, oh, when we do this practice out there, and we're gonna be able to do this now, and I haven't been able to do that, or I've had to modify. Like you seem really,
yeah.
yeah, I love that
I
for
mean, as long
you.
as we've got good weather, I mean, I want to be outside too.
Amen.
I mean, we have a flat, indoor track,
Yeah,
obviously,
yeah,
and
yeah,
we're thankful for that. Trust me,
absolutely.
because
Yeah,
there are a lot of programs that don't have, indoor facilities.
that's
So,
right.
but to be able to be outside as long as possible, and also, from the shin standpoint, from everything, just, if you're a 10K runner, you want to be doing your mile repeats outside if you can.
Yeah, no joke, right? And the
Right.
ability to host a meet, to be able to
Yeah.
your seniors get to, compete on the meet in front of their friends and families, host conference, I'm a
Right.
big conference guy, so I love those meets. I mean, that's just
Yeah.
these are you talked earlier, you talked about the student athlete experience. These are big parts of the student athlete experience that were not able to happen yesterday, and now tomorrow will happen. And so that is exciting. That's really cool. I love that. Laurie, you're really cool, man. You would think after, we're getting close to 350 episodes here, which means I've interviewed over 300 because we've had some staffs on here. So, I've probably, to not, I try to keep my ego in check a little bit, Laurie. I have probably talked to more coaches in depth than maybe anybody else around, right? That's a lot of hours out there, right? And I'm still blown away by you guys' individual stories. Your story is unlike anybody else I've spoken to. And again, I think of Trailblazer, I think of bravery. I mean, just you could have taken, remember I talked about those forks in the road that back in the day we thought, maybe weren't all that important or maybe were devastating, but they led to our wives, right? And our families. You could have taken other avenues. You could have said, you know what, I do love running, but there's no girls team here at Farmington, so running's free. You can still run, and lived a great life and probably become a great teacher or exercise scientist or professor like your parents, but you didn't. You took a little bit harder path, and that paved the way for other young ladies there. You could have taken different paths for your college. You could have made a different decision your freshman year that no one would have blamed you for. No one would have judged you negatively, but like, man, I get it. That makes sense. And you took a little bit harder path down that route. And so I'm just proud of you, man. I mean, it's so
Thank you.
cool to know that. I mean, if you're 30 years, is it fair to say, I always, again, math, not my strong suit. Yeah, I can say this because there's tangents past it. You have positively affected thousands of young people out there.
I hope so. I don't know. I
That,
hope.
when you think about past that, right? So you have coached young women who have become moms who are parenting with a positive aspect because of what they saw you do. So that's another kid that you positively impact. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You- Your
Oh,
your your influence is greater than the one kid in front of you. It is literally thousands. And again, into society, man. This is why I do it, what I do every day for track coaches. But what you guys do, man, it's immeasurable. And to hear your story is just absolutely mind blowing. And I'm absolutely humbled that you would share it with us today.
thank you.
Well, I'm excited for you. Again, one of the most expensive things, most timely things you can give me is your time. This is 2 hours that we've done that you could have been coaching or talking with your kids or strategizing with John on what the next practice looks like. So I'm very, very grateful for you to sit down with us this time here. Your story is going to impact a lot of people, and I'm just again just so grateful that you would allow me to share it with our listeners. So thank you so much for your time today.
I appreciate you doing this, Mike. Thank you.
Absolutely. And guys, thank you so much for being here. This is there's again almost 350, right? And every one of them are amazing. Everyone from my very first one, Zeb at Evergreen State, was just absolutely amazing. To some of the people we mentioned here, Brooks Johnson, Bouchek Snyder, Carolyn Smith Gilbert, Carol Smith Gilbert. I mean, just amazing people, right? And then there's just a couple that are just a little bit more emotional to me. And I think about Laurie's story here, man. It really, again, she could have taken other avenues and she didn't. And I think sometimes you're going to have avenues and decisions that you're going to have to make, and you're going to think the easy way or the harder way. And sometimes both are correct. But I think, as you lean on mentors like this and think about the women's programs and just your coaching peers in general, I think, make good decisions and be proud of them, and just positively affect other people. And that's really what life's about, that community that she mentioned. And I think that's a good lesson for us. So thanks again for being here this week. Join us next week. We'll do it all over again. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.